Welcome back.
To Read the Room,
A Culture Club.
A podcast by
Alexys.
Kaylin.
and Larsen.
Today, our episode is on age gaps and age gap relationships in the media. We kind of wanted to look at the trend, the phenomenon of...
Is it a trend if it's
That's-
all time?
I know, that's why I said it so hesitantly. I was like, can we even call it that? But the prevalence
Yes.
of age gaps in literature, movies, TV shows. And I will say that the way this topic kind of came about is because recently
Mhm.
there was a Netflix show called Age of Attraction released that gripped my attention, horrified me, interested me, all of the above.
Kind of like a car crash. You just can't look away.
Exactly like that. Age of Attraction, if you don't know, is a 2026 show. Just came out this spring. It's hosted by Nick Viall and Natalie Joy. Nick Viall is from the Bachelor, cinematic universe. That they're a real life couple with an age gap of 18 years.
Yeah.
A whole child.
She was like
A
20.
whole adult?
Yeah, she was like 20 and slid into his DMs.
Depends on who you ask.
Yeah.
And he, a 38-year-old, was like, yeah,
Yeah.
100% green light.
Yeah.
But the show
Oh.
kind of asks, and this is a reality show, so this is not fictional, unfortunately. But the show asks, is age just a number? They intentionally casted people on this dating show whose ages are somewhat ambiguous. I'll say the cast members, they look good,
Mhm.
right? But they need to look somewhat ambiguous because their whole setup is that they have the contestants date at a retreat and they're not allowed to share their ages.
Mhm.
Just get to know each other as people. And those who choose to couple up that had significant age gaps were then followed through a more extensive dating experiment. Of the 6 couples, surprisingly, 2 are still together today. Is a recent show, so we'll see.
Mhm.
I don't know if that'll be true a year from now.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to bring up the topic because there is a real perverseness when you're watching the show. And the show knows that. You know, like
Mhm.
they wouldn't have made this show if they didn't know that it was going to be inflammatory
Yes.
and
Yeah.
provocative.
Yeah.
There's a
But-
reason why they followed the big age gaps, not
Yes.
the
Yeah.
normal
Couple
similar
of
age.
years, 10 years. Yeah.
No, 100%, because there was couples who went to the retreat and who ended up coupling up that did not have wide age gaps. There was like a handful who had like 4 years between them, 2 years between them.
Mhm.
It just so happened when they revealed their ages that there wasn't a wide gap,
Yeah.
but they didn't choose to follow them. Like they
Yeah.
only chose to follow the ones that had like 15
Severe.
years or more.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the widest age gap on the show was 30 years.
There's like, okay, if you're
Actually,
60,
33 years,
if you're
33 years.
60 and you're dating a 93-year-old, I think that's the only acceptable time, that 30 years is
Yeah.
an okay number.
There was a 60-year-old man and a 27-year-old woman.
That's not okay.
No, it's not. It's not okay. But at the same time, as I was watching, I was wondering, like, this perverseness that I'm feeling, is that wrong of me? Because technically the contestants aren't doing anything illegal.
Mhm.
Yeah.
None of the people are younger than 22 years of age, which I think casting a 22-year-old on that kind of show should be illegal. But
Yeah, like at least 27. I don't know, like
her frontal lobe's not developed.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's not outright wrong. These are technically consenting adults, but there's this feeling of it is wrong that just exists there anyways
Yeah.
because of the power dynamics and
Mhm.
imbalances in those relationships. And I think that made us want to look at the broader themes and impact of age gaps in
Yeah.
literature and media. So, with that, should we kind of maybe start with
The
where
really uplifting context of history section.
exactly, where does it all begin?
When man became man.
And God made Adam.
Yeah, it's like with Adam and the piece of Adam.
Right.
It's just so unfortunate. Like, this episode is rather depressing, but it's nice to talk about it.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to take the scary thing out of the closet and you have
Yeah.
to unpack it and look
Yeah.
at it.
Yeah.
Actually, we'll be talking about it more in depth later. But
Yeah.
Lolita,
Mm.
in the version of Lolita that I read, the 2025 Vintage International Edition, there's an opening written by Claire Massoud. And one of the quotes is, when we designate a person or an event or a text as problematic, we simultaneously indicate its impropriety and choose politely to gloss over the details. Signifying disapproval, the word, in its delicate obfuscation, relieves us of the need to specify exactly what disturbs us.
Mm.
As it deflects, it reflects our incuriosity and the presumed incuriosity of our interlocutors. You need not pay attention, we suggest, because problematic is all you need to know.
Mm-hmm. But
Mm.
that's really interesting because some of these titles that we're going to talk about, that like that's what the story's about. It's obvious
Yeah.
that's what the story's about, is the age
Mhm.
gap. And then some of these titles, it's not talked about that much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some of those are the worst ones. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
or it's just accepted that that's like a part of the
That's the
story.
norm, or
Yeah,
that's
Yeah.
yeah.
But I think that there's certainly room to like say, why do pieces of media keep getting made with these problematic relationships? But at the same time, if we just say, oh, that's problematic, and then never look at it and then never explore it in
Yeah.
our media and in our literature, that doesn't do us any favors either. So I think part of what the unpacking has to be is looking at, when is this kind of media doing a good, and when is this kind of media
Mhm.
creating a kind of prevalence and acceptance and a glossing and a glazing
Yeah.
that is wrong.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've kind of already mentioned this, but all of this stems from the patriarchy. And almost all of these relationships, and the relationships that were normalized to, are an older man and a younger woman. And if you just think about like most relationships, I don't even feel like they're relationships, but like in the 1800s, 1700s, when you read these stories, these historical documents, a lot of them are like 14-year-old girls marrying widowers.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
they are old ass men marrying these women, and that's IRL. Like, I'm sorry, these girls.
Yeah, I mean, I think that ultimately when we look at, when does this quote unquote trend start, as we said, there's no real start date. Gender roles that have been dictated by patriarchy have made it normal throughout history. Like Kaylin said,
Mhm.
1800s, 1700s, 1600s, as far back as you walk, it's been more normal in society, in most societies,
Mhm.
especially Western society, right? Sorry, I don't want to create too broad of a scope, but it's been most normalized in Western society because of the patriarchy for an older man to be with a younger woman, because the older man is able to provide the stability through the establishment in his life that a younger woman would just not be able to
Yeah.
have. Women are also property, right? They're passed from passed from father to husband.
Mhm.
And so
Well, and just the entire concept of womanhood, what
right.
your point is of being alive,
Yeah,
is
it's
so that you can have children for
yes.
your husband,
Yeah.
specifically more boys.
Yeah,
So
More
sons
sons.
to pass on the
yeah.
wealth. Yeah.
So the younger you are, the
Mhm.
more opportunities you have.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. And there is a kind of biological excuse for why patriarchy has set up this standard of older man, younger woman. Sometimes people will point anthropologically to the fact that men can reproduce for longer than women can. Obviously, women, we have a set reproductive period, or people who are born with uteruses have a set reproductive period, whereas you have fucking Robert De Niro
Mm.
having a baby
Ugh.
when
So
he's
many of those people, Steven Tyler.
yeah,
Yeah.
having children when they're ancient and papery and should not
Yeah.
be
Mhm.
having
And,
babies.
and that concept is so gross to me because you can't even be a part of that child's life
Right.
realistically.
Yeah.
Like, that part in itself
Mhm.
amazes me, that these people, I mean, because it's not about having kids, right? It's not about nurturing this child. It's the Elon Musk and the Nick Cannon mindset of
Mhm.
just like populating with your sperm.
Yeah, absolutely. It's gross. I mean, it's honestly this prevalence of age gaps It stems from the patriarchy, it stems from gender roles, and it stems from a really gross place that degrades women. And we will talk about works that have older women and younger men at the center of them, but
But those are the oddities.
those are
Like,
the oddities.
yeah.
Yeah. If you are like, why are they talking so much about older men and younger women? It's because that's the vast majority. So
Yeah.
that's what we have to talk about most of the time.
Yeah.
That's also been the societal norm and is still the societal norm. And
Yeah.
part of what proves that is
Mm-hmm.
in the 2014 book Dataclysm, they famously presented two graphs that were data showing that women tend to find men close to their own age attractive. A 29-ish woman will find a 29-ish man
Mm-hmm.
the
Mhm.
most attractive, whereas
Well, and as they age,
Yeah.
that increases.
Yes.
exactly, so then a 60-year-ish woman
Yeah.
will find most of the time a 60-year-ish man
Yeah.
the most attractive, the most appealing. But on the other hand, men tend to find primarily 21-year-old women attractive
And-
regardless of their own
And
age.
I would like to say that I'm pretty sure the study, like, there was an age minimum.
Yes.
They
Yes.
could not go lower.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And the fact that men that are older than 20, 22, 24 will actively date an 18-year-old because it's legal. What would you do if the number was different? You would just
Yeah.
go lower.
The
Like,
line of legality is flimsy, and the fact that yet some people, sorry, not people, some men
Mhm.
cling to it so
Mhm.
much.
yes.
It's so
The
depressing.
fact that one day, oh,
Yes.
it's not legal, but the next day it is.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's this such a dark-sidedness to examples like there was a teen TikToker influencer who on the first day of being 18 started an OnlyFans, made millions.
Yeah.
Millions of dollars. And I know that there's more than one example like that,
Mhm.
but that just goes to like there were so many men waiting in the wings.
Yeah.
And you know they were already looking at her
Oh,
sexually
absolutely.
before she turned 18.
The same thing happens with actresses.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
the Olsen twins. There was
Yeah.
like countdowns for them turning
Megan
18.
Fox.
Yeah, Megan Fox. The gal who's in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, Sophie Turner.
Yeah, Sophie
Yeah.
Turner. Like
They could not wait to
do
have sex scenes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Natalie Portman, before she was of
Yeah.
age, she
Yeah.
received like rape fantasies
Yeah.
in her mail, like
Yeah.
from grown men. And all of this creates a dating disadvantage for many women because most men show less interest in them as we age, and we know that that lack of interest in women as they age, that continues to fuel this gender rolled and patriarchal limitation and perverseness.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, it perpetuates the old hag,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. And that if you perpetuate old hag, that contrast also then makes young virgin all the more
Yes.
valuable, right?
Yeah.
So it's really pigeonholing women into the roles based on what men find attractive.
And that's hurting men. Like,
Oh yeah.
I think that if we don't mention that, like, we have to, right? Like, there's reasons why women are not in relationships with men. There's reasons why women are choosing to either be single or facilitate other relationships or be in lesbian relationships because the men just think so young.
It's so gross and it's so disgusting. We know that this episode is going to be a slightly more depressing one, but we have to kind of look at these things. I find it really interesting that when we talk about history and context, slowly the acceptable age of a woman to marry has increased, right? Like we have gone from it being acceptable to marry a woman off as soon as she gets her first period, 14ish, to modern day when it is at least getting more and more normal for a woman to stay unmarried into their 30s
And not have children.
and not have children, right? So that role in the marriage marketplace and the sexual marketplace of women is receiving some pushback. But yet, even though that norm has changed, the age of consent has stalled out at 16 to 18 across
Yeah.
different states in the US.
Yeah.
I know. I've been listening to a podcast series about Jimmy's Saville, I believe is how you say his last name.
Yes. Seville?
Yeah, I
Saville?
feel like the Americans say it wrong, like that we
Mhm.
say it differently than
Yeah.
the English do. But he's operating as a pedophile in like his early, I think it's the 50s into till he dies, which I believe is early 2000s, 2000 or 2010s. And the age of consent at certain times, I don't think it is anymore in the UK, is 16. And that seems like crazy to me. But it's
Mhm.
also, it's just 2 years. Like 18
Yeah.
also seems crazy in some ways.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I mean, the idea that, like, honestly, the idea that a 50-year-old man having sex with an
yeah,
18-year-old is not a crime,
yes,
no matter what his position of power may be over her,
yeah,
is really perverted, I think.
yeah,
Yeah. Kind of like an example of this from one of the texts we looked at, though, you know, again, Lolita is from the perspective of the perpetrator,
Mhm.
the predator. So the
The
information,
pedophile,
yeah,
another P word.
the
Right.
information we're getting from him, you can't take it at face
Yeah.
value. This is just a quote from the book in the beginning of chapter 31. The stipulation of the Roman law, according to which a girl may marry at 12, was adopted by the church and is still preserved rather tacitly in some of the United States, and 15 is lawful everywhere. In such stimulating temperate climates, says an old magazine in this prison library, as St. Louis, Chicago, and Cincinnati, girls mature about the end of their 12th year. Dolores Hayes was born less than 300 miles from stimulating Cincinnati. I have but followed nature. And this is the main character's justification
Yeah.
for being sexually interested in this 12-year-old girl.
Yeah.
And this
Right.
this book was published in like 1955, so some of
I didn't realize it was 55.
Yeah,
That's
1955.
crazy. Okay.
So some of the, like, marriage laws have changed and
changed.
been
Yeah.
updated, but even still, I think it shows some of the, like, ironicness of the
Mhm.
arbitrary
Yeah.
ages that we choose to make things okay. Just because she's mature at 12 biologically
Mhm.
doesn't mean that she's mature enough to be married, and certainly doesn't mean she's mature enough to
Yeah.
have sex, but yet predators will cling to those kinds of
Yeah.
things in order to
He's
justify.
he's going back to Roman law
Yeah.
that outdated religion
Mm-hmm.
has clung to, not legal laws.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the fact that so many will go back to earlier times, to earlier laws, to earlier
Mm-hmm.
traditions shows you how damaging this history of
Mhm.
patriarchal gender roles still is today. Even as
Yeah.
we make progress, we are fighting the norm and the precedent that's been set by hundreds of years
Mhm.
of female oppression,
Mm-hmm.
which, as we point out many times, also hurts men.
Yeah.
And I think it just draws up, like, a giant question about when is it acceptable then, and when is it not, for there to be an age gap in a relationship. How young is too young? How much do the power dynamics matter?
How
When
old is too old?
How old is too old?
And then even like when it comes out of real life, just in our media,
Mm-hmm.
when do we as like viewers,
Mm-hmm.
readers deem it like, okay, that's fine, or are we a little bit icked out by it?
Yeah.
Right.
Like where do we find these lines?
When is it for awareness and when is it for romanticization?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we're going to go through some of the pieces of media
Mm-hmm.
that we have consumed or that we are aware of that kind of help to illustrate this prevalence, so that we can analyze those big questions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The first book we're going to discuss is Half His Age by Jennette McCurdy. This was released this year in 2026. It is her first fiction book, but she does have a memoir prior to this, which I think is an important thing to know when we're talking about this.
And that Jennette McCurdy herself in the memoir talks about
Yeah,
having an age gap
yeah,
relationship
Mm-hmm.
that's clearly influential.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I think more than one.
Well, I was gonna say she was among the Nickelodeon
Yes.
Yeah.
generation that was being abused.
Yeah, and explicitly by what's that man's name? That's the big
Dan
Nickelodeon.
Schneider.
Yeah, Dan
Mm-hmm.
Schneider. But there is at least one other relationship that I can remember that I think is kind of from the Nickelodeon family, but uh seemingly not as devious or crazy as the like what that documentary is
Yeah.
about with all the Nickelodeon folks.
And I'm sure that we'll get into it more as we go, but clearly Hollywood, it really enables
Yeah.
Yes.
these dynamics.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And Half His Age is basically a book about our main character Waldo, who is in a inappropriate relationship with a teacher that is double her age.
She's a high school senior, so she's
Mhm.
17 when the book starts.
Mhm.
And it's from her perspective, which I think
Mhm.
is really interesting because some of the other books that we'll talk about, they're written from the POV of the
Mhm.
older party, the perpetrator or the
Mhm.
abuser. Whereas this is an example of a work that's written by a woman from a female perspective, from the perspective of someone who is a victim, right?
Mhm.
If it is a, I do have to like say just outright, if we are talking about a work where the person is below the age of 18 and the older person is above the age of 18, that is definitively an abusive relationship.
Yeah.
So I will refer to the younger party as a victim and the older party as an abuser.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, right, exactly. But I just, for that kind of clarification, there's other works that we'll talk about where it's more gray because
Mhm.
both parties are technically adults, but how much that technicality matters is still up in the air. So this is one example of a work that is written from the perspective of the victim, and I think that that makes it an interesting one.
Mhm.
I think that Waldo really, really, really wants to have power and an identity that she can rely on, and she lacks that, right?
Mhm.
She, you
Mhm.
can see in some of her narration her
Yeah.
childishness coming through as she kind of claws at importance
Mhm.
through the relationship that she forms with this teacher.
Yeah. Yeah, I read a BuzzFeed article with Jennette McCurdy talking about kind of the themes of this book, and she says that the biggest theme is female rage and exploring its value. In so much of the book, Waldo is really enraged, but she's suppressing that and not actually facing that rage. And I think that's a little bit of the immaturity.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of other components of Waldo that makes Waldo who she
Yeah.
is. But I mean, after reading that book and then seeing her putting the words female rage to it, I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. That is a lot of the core of Waldo's inner thought process about
Yeah.
the situation with the teacher.
She is genuinely very angry, and she, like I think many of the heroines, so to speak, that we'll
Mhm.
talk about, is using the relationship as a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
But she has in her narration this kind of like too assertiveness at
Mhm.
times, or too biting, or too angry teenage confidence and like bravado,
Yeah.
that I think gives away when kids are trying to seem older and cooler than they are. And
Mhm.
even just like an early example of that is she has a dinner with her teacher and his wife, and at the table she like curses kind of unnecessarily and out
Mhm.
of nowhere, and uses this profanity that, if you're an adult you would be like, whoa. But
Mhm.
to her,
Yeah.
like, she's just being she's trying to stand out.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is like more her inner thoughts about the situation, but I think it kind of still speaks to what you're saying. But at one point where they're talking about she's talking about her relationship with her abuser. Um, I bite my tears down as I beg for him to fuck me harder and harder and harder, secretly hoping that if he fucks me hard enough, he'll fuck the resentment right out of me. He never does.
Yeah, that was hard to listen to in
Yeah.
the audiobook. That was honestly, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so unhealthy, right?
Yeah.
Like,
This this just popped in my head, and it's a completely different relationship. But when we read Demon Copperhead, the main character
Mm.
Demon has a close relationship with his art teacher,
Yeah.
yeah.
and he has a crush on her.
Mhm.
How that relationship is fostered and what that teacher does and how she helps him really shows you that difference in how adults can take a kid in a
Yeah.
vulnerable position
Yeah.
and do the right thing or the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And well, I think we have this a little bit further in the analysis here too, but she is instigating this relationship, but the onus isn't on her to
No.
stop
No.
it. She's not the adult. Like,
No, yeah.
Right.
yeah, it's like the teacher in Demon Copperhead,
Mhm.
like she understands what's happening and she's doing the right thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no way that she doesn't know that Demon has a
Yes.
crush on her, but the whole time she never backs down from helping him, but she never ever crosses a
Yeah. It
line.
doesn't even get close to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
1,000%. The responsibility is always going to be on the adult, on the
Mhm.
person who has true power in the situation and who has the life experience and the wisdom to know right from wrong definitively.
Mhm.
As a teacher, a lot of these stories honestly were really hard for me to ingest.
I can imagine.
Yeah, because there's so much that in reading it is honestly unimaginable.
Mhm.
Like truly
Yeah.
reading half his age, the teacher's name is Mr. Corgi. There's so much that he does that I just wanted to scream and be like,
Yes.
"What the fuck are you doing?"
Yes.
Yeah.
There's so many things.
So
Yeah.
so many things. Such an abuse of power.
Yeah.
These kids, when you're a teacher, they trust you, and they don't. They even if there's might be a crush, it's like it's not a crush because they actually want you or need you to act on it, right? Like that
Mhm.
is
Mhm.
abusive. It's because kids need mentors. They need
Yeah.
Yeah.
caregivers. They need people to be, you know, motherly or sisterly
Yeah.
or a coach or guidance. And sometimes when you're a kid, your wires get crossed
Mhm.
when you're trying to cope. So the onus and the fault isn't on Waldo for
Mhm.
getting her wires
Yeah.
crossed. It's on the teacher for not understanding his role and
Yeah.
his boundaries in her
Mhm.
life and how to actually store like a healthy relationship with her. Building rapport with my students is the most important part of my job, and the second that you stray in that as a teacher, you are a predator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. um I will say, just on that note of like, Waldo is young and vulnerable and trying to cope, and the wires are crossed. I feel like so many of these stories feature older men and younger women falling into a trope of the man making the girl feel
Mhm.
special, not
Mhm.
like the other girls,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Um,
I also want to say, I know we're going to talk about
yeah.
other forms of media later, but I just think it's probably worth
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
um you're talking about a young student and a teacher. Most people our age grew up kind of watching Pretty Little Liars.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And that Arya Ezra relationship was framed to us as young women
Yeah.
as a good thing.
Yeah.
As a he was like this great person for like obviously there were ups and downs whatever. I never finished the show. I don't know what
Yeah.
ultimately ended up happening, but it wasn't framed as a this is so wrong, never do that.
Mhm.
It was Arya kept fighting to get him back and Ezra kept wanting her a little bit. Like that's how it was framed to teenage girls.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I never watched that show, but I distinctly remember in the era of printing out like pictures and memes and stuff to slide into your binder cover in middle
Mm,
school. One of the girls that I sat at a table with, she had that teacher on
yeah.
and I was like, "Who is that?" And she's like, "Oh, it's this super hot teacher that like this girl like has her." I'm like, as she's telling this to me as like a seventh grader, I'm like, "What the fuck are you?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
That's a show you're allowed to watch? What?
Yeah.
A show made for teenagers?"
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, it's what the fuck.
Yeah.
But it makes sense in a way that because society is so hard on young girls, society asks young girls to grow up so fast while
Mhm.
also then wanting them to stay young forever.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because society makes it so difficult, the promise of respect and admiration from someone who has more power or privilege is so valuable. And I
Mhm.
think in many of these works, it's too valuable for the
Mhm.
girls to say no to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they shouldn't have to, is the point,
Yeah.
of course.
Cuz in a lot of these instances these girls are reaching out for help,
Yeah.
and then what they're given is this weird twisted
Yeah.
relationship.
Where they're being taken advantage of.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll talk about it more later, the trope of the broken home. But I do think it's just worth pointing out now that if your home life is incomplete or difficult,
Mhm.
and you feel like you're lacking something there, you will reach out to the adults closest to you, which for so many is going to be teachers, bosses, older brother's friend, parents' friend, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then you become extra vulnerable, and that can make you prey,
Yeah.
or that makes people see you as prey, I
Yeah.
should say.
Yeah.
I think the one that probably most people know of
Mhm.
is Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov. And at least for me, I don't know how you guys viewed it, but like growing up, hearing about it, up until very recently, I was I don't want to read this gross, disgusting book. Why would somebody write this? And then I found out that no, it's actually been kind of falsely advertised this whole time. He's not praising this kind of behavior. It's not this like love story. It's actually depicting a very, very messed up predator, like sick person.
Mhm.
And once I realized that it, like, a lot of times how it's been described to me was wrong, I was like, now I'm interested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More of like, I guess it's cautionary tale, the right?
Oh, for sure,
Yeah.
cautionary tale.
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
warning for sure.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I kind of had an inverted relationship with Lolita growing
Mhm.
up, because I was of the Lana Del Rey Tumblr breed,
Yeah.
and she like literally has a song called Lolita, which is like not at all about pedophilia. And instead is like, you know, kiss me in the PARK tonight. Hey Lolita, hey, like is a lyric in that song. Like it's super
Yikes.
bubblegum pop. And so I, as a teen, had an impression of Lolita that was definitely from the romanticized view
Yeah.
of the novel. I remember seeing on Tumblr like stills from the movie that has Dominique Swain in the lead role, where she is literally 15,
Yeah.
Mhm.
playing Dolores, whose nickname is Lolita, who is 12 in the novel, when the narrator, the person who ends up being our narrator,
Mm-hmm.
is preying on her, and then starts an abusive age gap relationship with her. And so when I first heard about Lolita, I had that romantic view, got older, realized what it was really about, felt disgusted, and then it eventually have now come back around to understanding
Yeah.
that all of those views that I was giving were misunderstandings.
Yeah.
It's so easy to misunderstand Lolita and misinterpret the purpose of the text
At the same time, I feel like it's not. Like,
when you read it.
when you read it, it's so clear.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you
Which is,
actually
it's
read it.
crazy because I mean,
Yeah.
I haven't read Lolita. I haven't really been exposed to this text that much at all. Yeah, it's crazy that you're saying like once you read it, it's obvious.
From the very first page.
Yeah.
That's so crazy that people
It-
can misinterpret these things.
It's so obvious that there are times, because he's twisting this narrative, like he's telling you the whole time, like, I know I'm such a creep, I'm such a perv, like I'm trying to help myself, like, hold myself back, but the whole time you could, like, he's not, like, he's unreliable narrator
Yeah.
for sure. And then there's these instances where he's like drooling over Lolita, and you're like, this is just a 12-year-old girl doing a normal, like, she's just having fun, she's just playing whatever.
Yeah.
In no way is she purposely doing stuff to him, but the way he's phrasing it,
Is
you're supposed to think
yeah,
that.
you're that she is the source of all of these temptations and she's the
Yeah.
reason why
And
this happened
every
and
now
he
and
can't
then,
help himself.
exactly, and every now and then he's like kind of correcting that a little bit, but like the whole time you can tell. And I just don't understand how anyone who actually reads the book could misinterpret it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that that's part of why it is important, if you're going to make a text as prolific as Lolita, to encourage people to actually read it or to adapt it responsibly,
Yeah.
because so many musical artists, movies have
Mhm.
used the Lolita trope in a way that is overly romanticized, to where now I think people oftentimes just see it as a book about an age gap relationship
Mhm.
Yeah.
that happens to be with a very underage girl, when actually
Yeah.
no, it is about a criminal pedophile written as a warning. I mean,
Yeah.
the purpose is right there in the first chapter. There's a quote where it says that, this story is being told so that there can be still greater vigilance and vision to the
Mhm.
task of bringing up a better generation in a safer world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just to give more context to this main character, like how he's telling this story, the vibe it immediately gave me was if you have watched the show Mindhunters
Mhm.
and they're interviewing these serial killers, that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
You know that they have such a twisted view of reality.
Mhm.
He's very charismatic. He's highly educated, but you can still tell there's just something.
He's like
off.
he's freaking Ted Bundy,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
I do think that part of why many people misinterpret Lolita is because they miss that framing
yeah,
that we just mentioned of the kind of Mindhunter style interview. This book has a framing where this is a story that a criminal is telling you from prison,
Mhm.
right?
yeah,
He is recounting his crimes to you.
yeah,
From prison.
And when you don't actually include that framing and you just jump to the story of him meeting
Yeah.
Lolita, you are missing out on a lot of important context about who he is, which is, I feel like, extra important because unlike half his age, this story is told from the perspective or the POV of the predator and the
Yeah.
abuser. It's from Humbert's perspective, which obviously at moments slips into being sympathetic for him
Mhm.
yeah,
because it's him
yeah,
telling it about his own actions.
Yeah.
yeah.
He literally at one point describes himself as having superhuman self-control.
Ugh.
Yeah. And he constantly is talking about how hot and attractive he is. He's comparing himself to movie stars.
And also how hard he tries. How hard he tries.
Yeah.
It's disgusting. It's awful. But Nabokov put it in his perspective to draw attention to the way that a sick and manipulative mind works.
Yeah.
But I think that people oftentimes need that framing to understand who that person is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I personally don't understand how you could miss it, but if you're somebody who already has the
They're trying to justify it for themselves.
yeah, then yeah.
And what I will say is
I just
that
want to vomit.
That's the
it's
thing is when
so
you're reading
gross.
it, it's such beautiful writing, but at the
Yes.
same time
You're so uncomfortable.
I was feel yeah.
Yeah.
It makes you feel so icky.
I think that that's another big reason why in popular culture people misinterpret Lolita
Mhm.
because if you don't actually read the full book and you don't get that really important context at the beginning of the book and you're just getting like quotes online
Yeah.
or aestheticized pictures
Uh-huh.
with quotes, the writing is beautiful.
Yeah.
The prose, the way that Nabokov writes is so gorgeous, and yet your stomach, when you're reading the full context,
Yeah.
is turning and turning
Yeah.
because the situation is horrendous. But if you only clip it,
Mhm.
Yeah.
I can see how then people would not understand how actually detrimental that relationship is.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if Jennette McCurdy's prose is as beautiful, but I do enjoy how like parts of how she writes. But let me tell you a book that's written horribly, The Hunting Wives.
And this is one of our outliers.
Yes. yes. It's yeah, one of our outliers because these moms be fucking their friends' sons. And that shit's whack.
Women can be predators too. Don't happen a lot, but it does. I did not read The Hunting Wives, but I kind of, correct me if I'm wrong, they're kind of swapping sons, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Is it better or worse to want to fuck your own son, your friend's son, or a random 18-year-old?
My mind doesn't really work like that.
I think we can hands down say that incest is the worst one.
Right,
Good.
right.
Because that, honestly, like, true boy moms, that's what that gives.
Yeah, and they're what's the right word? Like
Republican?
no,
Oh.
they want to fuck their son, but they can't. So they're
Oh, it's like a suit,
Right.
or
It's
like,
to stand in.
yeah,
Yeah,
stand
but they're
in vicariously.
yes, but there's another word. But anyway, yeah, they want to fuck their son, but
Surrogate.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
They're surrogate fuck buddy when the boy moms can't have their sons. Speaking of boy moms, I just wanted to draw a comparison real quick because Age of Attraction, this real life show, they do have several relationships where the woman is the older one, and I found some of those to be the most interesting. The couple that I think most people would agree is like the front runner, like the fan favorite, is Teresa, who's 54, and John, who is 27. Teresa looks amazing for 54, truly. But still, there's clearly, when you look at them, an age gap. Teresa's oldest son is 29.
yeah.
So you have this, and she has another son who's 22. So she has several children right around the age of this man that she's dating and she's fucking. And it just made me wonder, like, does it happen more with women when it's boy moms?
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to look into it, but
Yeah.
maybe.
I don't want to know the stats, but I think you're onto something.
Yeah.
And on the sun swapping thing, you guys ever heard of the show
Yeah.
MILF Manor?
Yes, I sure have.
I have not.
That is
And-
such a good character, like, mark for you, Larsen.
I haven't watched it. I have heard of it.
I
and
haven't watched either.
I forgot that it was actual sons and mothers
Yeah.
that were on the show and not just hot moms.
Yeah, so
Like that makes it so much more disturbing.
it is. It's like if people made Hunting Wives not a book,
Yeah,
but a
but a
trashy
reality.
reality TV show. MILF Manor was an American. Where else could it be? American reality TV that premiered in 2023 on TLC. And on the first season of the show, there was 8 single women between the ages of 40 and 60 that were pursuing romantic relationships with 8 single men several decades younger. In the first season of the show, it's revealed that the men in question are the other women's sons.
Which, like, if I remember correctly, there is like a lot of really weird interactions between mothers and sons in that show of being like, well, you're not good enough for my mom, or like, you're not as hot as my mom, so I don't know why I would even fuck you. Like,
Yeah.
such weird if the other person isn't there, weirder that they're actively in that scenario
No,
with you.
absolutely. And in Age of Attraction,
You gonna vomit?
I need to like dissociate.
in Age of Attraction, there's a boy who thankfully doesn't get coupled up, but does have a horrible on-screen interview where, as they're going into the dating experiment, he says, well, my mom and I only have a 19-year age gap, and so I'm going into this going, if you're not hotter than my mom,
Ugh.
I'm not going to date you.
That's crazy.
Yes, it is crazy.
Speaking of,
So a few years ago, I was on a road trip and queued up an audiobook that I hadn't read anything about, but I had just finished Under the Banner of Heaven, and I was like, wow, that was so good.
yeah.
I want another good audiobook.
Yeah.
Just clicked to the next one that was available. It happened to be All the Ugly and Wonderful Things. For a while, it was like, okay, this is good. Like this, it's. I did not read what it was about, but it's marketed as the like little synopsis thing says a beautiful and provocative love story between two unlikely people and the hard-won relationship that elevates them above the Midwestern meth lab backdrop of their lives.
So this is like a coming of age story of 2 teenagers that are growing up together?
You know, so it starts and you have the main character, Wavy, and she's this young girl. Her mom is a drug addict, kind of neglects her and her brother, and they are adjacent to this bike gang, whatever. And one of those members notices that these kids are being neglected. And he goes over and makes sure they have groceries, makes sure that she gets to school on time, is just checking in on them. And this whole time, I'm thinking, wow, this is going to be, he's going to adopt them. Like, he's going to
This
be
would
a
be
big,
a beautiful
he's,
story.
yeah, he's going to be a big brother. Like, she's really smart. He's going to make sure she gets educated, all this stuff. So then imagine my horror, imagine my surprise when one night there's some party or whatever, and Wavy crawls into bed with whatever the heck the guy's character name was. When they first meet, she is 8 years old and he is like 18. When they first have sex, because that's where it leads to, she's 13. And as soon as she crawled in that bed, I turned off the book.
You know,
Jesus
this should have been like
Christ.
the book that probably none of our listeners have read, Independent People, where he has those crazy thoughts about his daughter, and then he has so much shame and is like punishing and
Yeah,
like
that's
what?
totally different.
13? Oh.
Yeah. So,
Just the way that you see the synopsis you read, where the way it's marketed, the fact that
yeah.
it's like a beautiful love story, and then meanwhile, no mention at all of the fact that a
No.
13-year-old
Is having
Yeah.
sex with a 21 year, no, 25?
23.
23?
Yeah.
I
So
can't math.
I stopped reading that book. And when I was not driving, I pulled up reviews and I was like, what the fuck is happening? And imagine my surprise again when it's 5 star after 5 star after 5 star and people saying how beautiful it is and how like wonderful the love is and all this stuff. And I'm the only one sitting there being like, what the fuck is going on? Like, that's grooming. That's
Yeah.
what is that? One, like, who decided to market it like that? Because if that is
It's wrong.
well, yeah, if that's just the publisher,
Yeah.
that's so wrong. That's so far off basis. And if that's the author, if that's how the author wanted that marketed, somebody go check on that author. But one thing that I think potentially is kind of used to justify the relationship is that everything is initiated by Wavy.
Mhm.
So you can never I'm I don't agree with this. But it's not on the guy character
Mm-hmm.
because she's the one initiating everything. She's the one who starts the relationship. She's the one who crawls into bed. She's the one who wants this
Mhm.
because she's a neglected, abused child who does not have any love in her life.
Yeah.
And this
Yeah.
person came in and started caring for her.
She's getting
And
attention. She's getting
yeah.
like better things in her life because of this.
And so, yeah, let's blame the 8-year-old.
Yeah, that's
The 13-year-old.
crazy.
I was so surprised. Like, I don't think that I'm crazy to think, like, to have expected that relationship to have become older brother or foster parent.
Yeah.
The way that that was heading. That is absolutely insane that that is how you're going to take that story with how you're marketing that story.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, just leading people into that with no warning and just, I mean, talk about over romanticizing an abusive dynamic.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, yeah, sure, at first he does help them out. They didn't starve. She was able to go to.
That's written by a woman.
Oh my God, this whole
That
time I
book
thought it
is
was.
written by a woman.
This whole time I thought it was a man.
Because I was like, what else have they written? I've definitely seen that cover now that
Yeah.
but
Wow.
wow.
Okay, well, now I'm even more flabbergasted.
Wow. I wonder
I just assumed.
There's not enough therapy in the world.
That's rough.
So, I mean, it doesn't change how awful that is, but it does.
Yeah.
I think it makes it worse.
I think it does make it worse because I expect it from a man.
Yeah.
But when you find out that a story like that is written by a female author, I mean, part of me is like, is she a victim?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
what because that's almost perpetuating a cycle of abuse when
Yeah.
you write that kind of story and allow it to be synopsized in such an inaccurate way.
This other book of hers that is Nobody Knows You're Here. A desperate woman fights to escape captivity. I think we need to check on this person.
Her and Colleen Hoover.
Yeah.
Woman down.
Yeah, anyway,
A woman?
like, I think this is a direct contrast with Lolita. It was never originally marketed as some romantic whatever. People may have taken it that way. The adaptations may have kind of ruined that.
Yeah.
But this book was marketed as a love story, a coming of age love story.
Yeah. Another quote unquote romance that we read recently is Trespasses. But Trespasses, we have another episode on that and kind of more focus on the troubles. But this book is it's all framed around this relationship, and I feel like the the scandalous parts of this relationship and how it was portrayed to us in the book is the fact that he's married and the fact that he's a Protestant and she's a Catholic, not the fact that he's twice her age.
Yeah, she's half his age.
Yes.
She's 24 and he's 50. He's like around in his 50s. It's not exactly said how
No.
old he is, but he's in his 50s. Meanwhile, she's 24. She's literally closer in age to his 18-year-old son than to him. I will say Trespasses, I feel like, is a good example of a story on our list that is between two consenting adults because Kushla, the main character, is at least over the age of 18. It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's taken us a while to get there, but
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean that he isn't gross and
Yeah.
manipulative
Well,
and
And I was gonna say that honestly, I think it like shows even more how young that is because
yeah.
the story is told through like her actions and her point of view. You can just see, feel, whatever through her actions, how naive she is.
Right.
Yes.
And this is someone who's 24.
Yes.
Yes.
And this man, Michael, that she's in this relationship with, knew her parents intimately.
Yeah. Was friends with her parents.
And I don't think it's mentioned that he knew her as a child, but his wife certainly remembers her as a child.
It's implied.
It's implied, and I think that he just avoids it because it's weird.
Yeah, maybe they both do, because I'm like, I feel like there's no explicit time where they're like, this time when I was a kid and you were an adult,
Yeah.
like, but the
Because-
wife certainly, when
Be-
she meets her, knows.
Because Kushla was so young that she does not remember knowing them.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
very true.
And yet, when she is 24
Mm-hmm.
and he re-enters her life, he has no problem dictating every move of the relationship,
Mhm.
having an affair with her, breadcrumbing her in a very classic way.
It's not an affair. It's different.
Oh, he says that at a certain point.
He's had 3 affairs, not including her, and she's not an affair.
He has a pattern, as many of the predators
Mhm.
that we are covering do across these pieces of media. He has a pattern, and she's so special because he says, this isn't an affair. This is something else. So it's falling into all those classic tropes, and it just has those classically emotionally abusive power dynamics, even though they are technically both consenting adults. He's in a well-respected position of power, and she is a young woman who's grasping at herself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In that same episode, we also talk about Milkman, which is another Northern Irish piece of literature. And it also has kind of an age gap relationship, though this one is like not consensual. She doesn't want it to happen, and it's almost like a relationship through rumors. But it's also with a man, she's like 18 and he's in his 40s.
Yeah. That's
And
so crazy.
And a lot of the storyline is like kind of about the age gap, but also like, oh wow, he's married. Did you know that? And she's like, yeah, but I'm not even in a relationship with him.
This is purely rumors.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in Trespasses, there's another relationship with an older brother of one of Kushla's students. And he clearly has a crush on her. Kushla knows that. And she's kind of grossed out about it. Like, she won't cross that boundary.
Yeah.
But she doesn't apply this to her life.
It's an age gap parallel that I think really helps to point out how wrong it is, and yet how much you can be tricked into accepting something that is unacceptable. Kushla knows that at 24, her having a relationship with Tommy, who's a senior and 18, would be crossing a boundary. Yet, her having a relationship with this 50-something-year-old is acceptable to her.
Yeah.
50-something Catholic or Protestant.
Yeah.
Married man.
Yeah. I mean, she just falls right on into it because, like several other of the victims on our list, she's trying to cope with other things in her life.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think other ones that sometimes we forget or like choose to ignore the age gap are some of these like older romances.
Yeah.
Like all of Jane Austen's work. And one that also comes to mind for me was Jane Eyre.
Right.
Yeah.
By Charlotte Bronte.
And in Jane Eyre, right, it's a governess who falls for her employer. So that's important because we do have an abuse of power, perhaps because it's a boss.
Yes.
Yeah. And someone who had a very rough, tumultuous upbringing, is on her own, gets thrown into this work. She's there to work, and then relationship ensues. For me, that actually ruined Jane Eyre for me. I was loving Jane Eyre, and then when I realized that she's gonna end up with Mr. Rochester, I was like, what did I just read? Why did I go through? What is this?
Yeah. See,
because we want happy endings.
Yes.
For our heroines.
Yeah.
The other one we have here, Sound of Music, when I was looking at this earlier, I was like, that is correct, I guess. I would have never thought about that.
Yeah.
But 100% correct. It's an age gap. It's an employer and an employee. It's all the bads.
Yeah.
And, I think it is important to look back at those classic romances, classical pieces of literature, because sometimes we overlook them because it was the norm.
It's a different time.
It's a different time, right? Of course, the rich widower is gonna marry the young girl.
Well, like the one for me that I will always choose to ignore is an Emma.
Yeah.
Mr. Knightley is not 38. Emma is one of them's older, one of them's younger.
Yeah.
They're closer to the age
Mhm.
than advertised.
You you change it in your mind.
Yeah.
I mean, but historically, right? Like men did wait until they were financially able to marry, which
Mhm.
having a job, family income, maybe their dad dying so they could get a title or property. And that ends up being at the earliest mid to late 20s. More often than not, they're in their 30s, whereas
And if they married younger, it was usually at like the risk of ruining everything, their family
Yeah.
abandoning them. Like it
Yeah.
was, if they married earlier, it was out of stupidity or love, and they risked everything.
Yeah. Famously, Shakespeare got married when he was really young to an
Mhm.
older woman, and his family super frowned down upon the marriage. It's
Yeah.
like, what are you doing just
Yeah.
rushing into this marriage?
Throwing your life away. You're so
Exactly.
young.
Whereas women,
But like if you were 30 and there's an available 14-year-old,
eh,
sure.
all's fair. Women didn't have lives to throw away, so
Yeah. Yeah.
They just had wombs to throw away.
yeah, they didn't have rights and they didn't get to have any money that was theirs. So it didn't really matter then how young they got married off, except it did matter for reproduction, for the
Mhm.
men, for their property, and therefore
Yeah.
younger women, more
Yes.
babies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Though I will say it wasn't like 14. They were still women.
Right.
It
Yeah.
was 18 and up.
Yeah,
Typically.
for the most part,
Typically.
yeah.
Yes.
There are exceptions, of course, but yeah, and I also think that there is some logic behind the biology of like just because you have your period doesn't mean that you could survive childbirth, like with your hips and all these other things that come with
Mm-hmm. More medically.
maturing. Yeah.
Yeah. And just as a different example from this time period that I think goes really to the same point, just looking at it from a different lens, in Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, Charlotte Lucas is older than Mr. Collins, and that's actually a match that is frowned upon. Like
Mhm.
Charlotte Lucas is a character who's judged heavily in the book for being unmarried, and when she explains why she's marrying Mr. Collins,
27.
she's 27. That's a thornback, they
Yeah.
used to call. If you got past spinster, they used to call you a thornback.
Tell me what I am.
Um,
My great grandfather once told my mother, his caretaker, that women pass their prime at 24.
can't believe I'm past my prime already.
Yeah, same.
I feel like I just
Ye
get
old
hotter
man.
and hotter with age. But I feel like that example of Charlotte Lucas and Mr. Collins just shows that historical acceptance of an older man is so strong, and that's why we see the older man, younger girl trope more than the older woman, and also because older women are going to be, as we mentioned earlier, just a tiny bit in the episode, they're gonna be more of a target for criticism because
Yeah.
they have a lack of value in the marriage mart and in the sexual marketplace. They get vilified in pop culture, and you get mother gothel types, right? If you're
Yeah.
if you're Charlotte Lucas, you're either a plain, too much of a plain Jane, or heaven
Mhm.
forbid you get into your 30s, now you're a wicked witch.
Yeah.
And therefore, the acceptance of an older woman as a sexually assertive character, like as a MILF character,
Mhm.
took more time in pop culture to develop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole MILF thing is, I mean, I feel like really recent.
Yeah.
Like maybe Miss Robinson era, like, but I don't even feel like that. I mean, obviously that term wasn't really prevalent,
Yeah.
but the idea is much more modern.
Yeah, just like last 100 years, I feel like
Yeah,
that people
Yeah.
get to start letting that freak flag fly.
The old ladies.
Oh my gosh.
One I think that's really, really common right now for a lot of readers
Yeah.
is in fantasy and romantasy
Yes.
books. And it's another
So-
I'm not vomiting.
Alexis had a visceral reaction to that.
I think it's another one that people choose to ignore.
Yes.
Oh
And
yeah.
I don't know if it's because these characters are immortal or like not human
Yeah.
or something, so we don't think about it in the same terms of like, and it's in a fantasy world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in what reality is an 18-year-old and a 500-year-old?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think that people give it a pass because Number one, sexy. Number
Yeah.
two, because we've been making these characters described so sexily, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
on a deeper analytical level, because the one half of the couple is mythical
Mm-hmm.
or not human, they end up able to look similar
Uh-huh.
despite the difference in age, right? Like I think
Yeah.
of
'Cause
Edward and
their
Bella.
age is like prorated.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So I think of like Edward and Bella. If you see that couple, you're not going to be hit with a wave of perverseness just from looking at them.
Yeah.
But yet, the difference in life experience and
Mhm.
privilege is still there.
Yeah.
Like, Edward's not going to be commiserating with Bella about the Spanish influenza.
No.
They're not going to be vibing out to classical music in the same way
You know,
because Edward was there.
Yeah.
they might have some pretty good conversations like post-COVID though, with Spanish influenza.
Oh my gosh, this is just like.
I remember 100 years ago.
Yeah. Back to the PLL days.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
The Vampire Diaries.
Mm.
Elena, Stefan, and Damon.
Mm-hmm.
That's an 18-year-old girl with two vampires who are like 120 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, damn, vampires love obsessing over an 18-year-old girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or younger.
Or
Yeah.
younger.
Interview with Vampire.
Oh, yeah. Well, like, is it more icky because they are just of age in most of these cases, the girls, the
Uh-huh.
women. So if it was a 40-year-old heroine and a Rezan character, would that be different?
I
think
think
a
that
little.
I think it's a little different because she is able to have also experienced more life.
Yeah.
It's like especially icky because she's just legal.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
it's in most of these stories are like coming of age stories,
Yeah.
and so like I think it is even grosser
Yeah.
because of
Yeah,
those.
because these are things that are marketed to young girls, like teenagers or young adults.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do think in a lot of those like immortal human fantasy romantasy relationships
Mm-hmm.
with those big age gaps, the girl is really usually infantilized.
Oh, for
Yes.
Like
sure.
super.
Yeah.
For
It's
sure.
it's always that the Edward or the what other character is like, you're a delicate little bird and I'll
Mhm.
protect you, and
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
oh, you didn't eat anything today, you have to eat, stupid human. Like
Yeah.
Well, and they're usually either going into a completely separate world or being introduced to a different world within.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like they're also their guide and sometimes their soul guide or tethered to that
Uh-huh.
world. So
Yeah.
Well,
it's even more of like an abusive relationship.
yeah. And I was gonna say too, I think sometimes authors need to just cool it on the ages because you're not even writing your characters like they're 500 years old and
Yeah.
they understand the
Yeah.
world like they've lived that long. Like
Yeah.
you're still writing someone who is dumb.
Yeah.
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 Honestly, you'd think after 500 years that you wouldn't be such an idiot.
They
Yeah.
mature, their frontal lobes don't develop till they're at least 300.
Yeah, so yeah, maybe make them 150. You know, like I don't
Our boys so immature that it takes them hundreds of years to catch up.
Yes.
yeah, because you know, often they're being written in a way that like 20 pages in you already forgot the age difference.
Yeah. Because he's just as much of a dipshit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also like sometimes it's like, why on earth are authors so obsessed with making the female main character in high school? Like
Yes.
Elena or Bella could have been 21 and in their junior year
Yes.
of college
College,
and still been
yeah.
coming of age, and
Yes.
it's like it could have had
Yeah.
the same story.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Or and I thought you were gonna say, why can't she be 500 years old?
Yeah. Yeah. So there. Stick it to the man.
And the last one I was thinking of was super, super popular last year.
Mhm.
Literally titled Problematic Summer Romance by Ali
See,
Hazelwood.
I haven't heard of this. When you put
Really?
it, yeah, when you put it in here, I was like, I know that author. Never heard of that title.
Yeah, it came out.
That's hilarious. On
Yeah.
Goodreads.
It's like a interconnected series to Not a Love Story, which I don't know if you read that one.
I have not, but I am aware. Yeah.
The female main character is 23 years old. She is in love with the male main character, who's 38 years old,
Mhm.
who is her older brother's best friend.
Mhm.
Obviously, thus problematic. I haven't read this one, but so many people really, really liked it. And I think something that I've noticed, at least with the texts that I've read that are written by women that are focusing on a more caring
Mhm.
relationship, is that they focus less on the power imbalance
Mhm.
Right.
and they focus more on this nurturing obsession.
Hmm.
However, I think that it's also, you could look into like, is this just how women twist this obsession?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
do we want to put a positive spin on Mr. Darcy and
Mhm.
Colonel Brandon?
Yeah.
So they're not as seen as creepy for lusting after these young
Yeah.
women.
Yeah, because most of the time when a man when an older man doggedly and obsessively pursues a younger woman, that's gonna be creepy. That is
Mhm.
predatory.
Yeah.
But if you make it that
But if he saves your family from ruin,
and
you
they're
It's
know,
okay.
and they're so caring and
yeah.
they're so wise and they have
And
such
he has
good
10,000
taste
a
in
year.
songs.
Well, and Allie Hazelwood has at least 2 fantasy novels
Uh-huh.
where
They're the same. They're
they're the same age. They
yeah.
are monsters and they're
Yeah.
monster fucking, but they're the same age. They're not ancient beings that they're having a romance with.
Yeah. And I know some of people's criticism with it, they were just like, could you have made her like 20, like same age gap, but
Yeah.
like a little bit older?
Yeah,
She,
just frontal lobe developed.
yeah,
Like,
she could
yeah,
be 27, he could be in his 40s.
yeah.
And like still, that's a big age gap, but I think some people were like, that's still a little bit close to 18.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of a speed round here of some other.
I was gonna say, I think if we deep dive into any more
Yeah.
texts, we might become we might get
It's the
put on a
podcast.
list.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say that's what the podcast is gonna be. It's just age gap relationships.
No, I was thinking more like our therapists are gonna be raking it in.
Possibly.
So let's just speed round to show you, to just really drive home how pervasive this is. Kaylin, hit it.
Okay, I'm gonna skip the ones that we already talked about, hopefully. Okay. Mrs. Robinson, The Graduate, Interview with a Vampire, Harold and Maude, Something's Gotta Give, American Beauty, House of the Dragon, Buffalo 66, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, Baby Girl, A Family Affair. I think Nicole Kidman might have a problem. She was in both of those last 2 ones. In the same year, too. Um, there are endless lists, unfortunately, on this topic. For some reason, a user on IMDb created a list called Age Gap Relationship Movies slash Younger Women and Old Men. My fear is a woman made that now that we know that woman made that book.
Yeah.
There's another list titled Call Her Daddy or Mommy, the 7 kinkiest age gap romances on streaming. Why do we need that list? And then on Reddit, I don't know how to frame Reddit things correctly. On a Reddit thread,
A subreddit
thank
called
you,
r/Netflix best of.
thank you. Um, the post title was "Looking for age gap affair shows or movies," and then they deleted the rest.
Wow. Well, you know what? If you're looking, you'll find no shortage out there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Unfortunately.
But should you go freaking looking?
absolutely not.
Um,
And also, you're gonna find enough organically.
right. Absolutely. I mean, they're producing
Honest-
more and more all the time.
Yeah, when we decided to do this episode after like being spurred by that show, we were like, wait, this book that we're reading right now
Yes.
fits into that. And then it's like, oh, wait, that show I just watched, that movie I just watched, it's everywhere.
Yeah, I am sure that I have thought about more of these as I've been like walking the dogs and doing other things,
Yeah.
and then just haven't written it down because I'm not like in a
Yeah.
spot to do that. But it's so it's everywhere. It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
everything. I think that you'd be hard pressed to find like a TV series that doesn't at least have one age gap relationship.
Just
Yeah.
naming the pieces of media, the books, the movies, the TV shows, we would be here forever.
Mhm.
And this episode, this is just the summary of a few key examples so that we can spot what the themes and the patterns are, and so that we can try to find the line, because I think that there are more lines that
Mhm.
need to be drawn, but
They're like a whole box.
there's so much weight and heaviness to this particular topic that you will have to stay tuned to hear those themes broken down,
Yeah.
as we will have a part 2 to the age gap in the media episode series. This is going to be a two-parter for
Yeah.
sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, we want to be able to give the analysis the time it deserves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there were just too many examples for us to get to there.
You know how at the beginning we said sometimes you have to take the ugly thing out of the closet and unpack it?
Yeah.
This episode was just taking it out of the closet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're not even unpacking it yet.
No, and we have
Yeah.
to put it back together to shove it back in the closet either. And
Right. And we have to figure out what we can take away in order to, like Nabokov said, make things safer for our future generations.
Yeah.
Because if there's anything I can take away just from this first part, it's that, Nelly, are we in danger?
Yeah,
we sure are.
yeah, clearly way too common.
Oh, please, please check back for part 2 because this conversation is too important to not be continued. And now you have the context necessary to follow us as we dive in.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for listening.
We hope you'll keep reading the room with us.
So keep checking back for more episodes every Monday and Thursday that dive into the spaces where literature, media, and culture meet.
Please reach out to us at readtheroomacultureclub@gmail.com for feedback and topic suggestions.
Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at readtheroom_culture club for the most up-to-date podcast information.
If you enjoy our podcast, please leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen.
And remember to take up space in whatever room you're in. Unless that room is like speed dating for age gap relationships, then
Leave.
Leave.
Get out.
get out!